November 3rd, are you optimistic that that will happen? And will that give you a boost in the election?
On the vaccine?
Yeah.
I am. I'm optimistic that it'll be probably around that date. I believe we'll have the vaccine before the end of the year, certainly, but around that date, yes, I think so.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday laid out an aggressive timetable for a coronavirus vaccine, saying it was possible that there could be a safe and effective vaccine around the November 3rd election.
This is going to be the most popular vaccine in the history of the world. Everybody's going to want it, which means we have to actually go through proper tests to make sure it's not detrimental to people. There's nobody who suggested we're going to have a vaccine by the beginning of November.
There's nobody who suggested we're going to have a vaccine by the beginning of November.
Top expert and the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, said results from the late-stage study could be available as early as November.
There's nobody who suggested we're going to have a vaccine by the beginning of November.
Dr. Anthony Fauci said results from the late-stage study could be available as early as November.
Why does the president do this? This is disinformation. This is lying. This isn't misleading. This is straight up lying, and it's damaging.
You are right to be beyond dubious and skeptical and call that the lie that it is, and instead listen to Dr. Fauci, who by and large has been right about this at every turn. And whenever he's been wrong, he's admitted it, he's corrected the record, and he's been governed by the science and the facts and the truth.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
And instead listen to Dr. Fauci, who by and large has been right about this at every turn.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. There should be universal wearing of masks.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says Americans should be wearing masks when they're in public.
I do it when I'm in the public for the reasons that, A, I want to protect myself and protect others, and also because I want to make it be a symbol for people to see that that's the kind of thing you should be doing.
Bottom line, we don't have to worry about this one, right?
But this is not a major threat for the people in the United States, and this is not something that the citizens of the United States right now should be worried about.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Ali Velshi here in New York with breaking news coverage.
Velshi, I don't even know who the hell Velshi is. I just remember. Did a little shave job on his head. I was thinking about doing it. I was going to do a little, but I decided against it. I didn't want to go down 25 points in the poll. Ali Velshi.
You know, a lot of people say to me, you must feel good. It kind of gives you a new level of fame. Remember, he's talking to me at Trump rallies. There is not a single attendee at that rally who probably knows who I am or watches MSNBC. I don't love it. I'd just as soon he move on to something else and not talk about it.
You cover this objectively now? I mean, how do you look at that, Ali?
Yeah, so I'm entirely objective from an ideological perspective. Why does the president do this? This is disinformation. This is lying. This isn't misleading. This is straight up lying. We have reported objectively about the things that he has done, and they are bad, and they are dangerous, and they are assaults on democracy, and he is a compulsive liar. Well, as if being ripped away from your family wasn't torture enough, we now know that the Trump administration denied mental health services to the migrant families that it separated at the border.
This comes as we're learning the real story behind this now iconic image. The crying little girl was even turned into a provocative cover by Time magazine. But it turns out she was never separated from her mother.
As if being ripped away from your family wasn't torture enough.
The kid immediately started crying as he set it down. I personally went up to the mother and asked her, "Are you doing okay? Is the kid okay?" And she said, "Yes, she's tired and thirsty."
They were then taken into custody together. Now the White House is slamming those using the image to symbolize the crisis at the border. It's shameful that Dems in the media exploited this photo of a little girl to push their agenda, tweeted White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She was not separated from her mom. The separation here is from the facts.
Services to the migrant families that it separated at the border. Think about that for a minute. You take people away from their families, you put them in cages.
Not one single so-called cage has been constructed by the Trump administration. Not one.
We have reported objectively about the things that he has done, and they are bad, and they are dangerous, and they are assaults on democracy, and he is a compulsive liar.
President Obama separated children. They had child separation.
You put them in cages.
Who built the cages here?
Let's talk about
who built the cages here. Who built the cages here? And who built
built the cages, yeah?
And you ain't black.
Who built the cages, yeah?
And you ain't black.
Who built the cages, yeah?
Let's talk about
who built the cages, yeah? Who built the cages, yeah?
We choose truth over facts.
Who built the cages, yeah?
We choose truth over facts.
Built the cages, yeah?
Let's talk about who
the cages, yeah? They were built by President Obama's administration, not by Trump.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Again, President Trump has not built a single cage. The cages you see in the news and on Twitter were constructed by President Obama's administration.
I only get my breaking news from reliable sources. I've been a journalist for 24, 25 years. I only get it from sources that rigorously check their information. So fake news sows confusion that obscures basic facts that prevents necessary debate. The real problem is that there is fake news and it's spread by a wolf in journalists' clothing. And this wolf would have you believe that the real news is actually fake. And that's the real problem that we're facing today. Now, come on, I'm not a journalism student. I'm a veteran journalist in my 24th year of this business. If I spread breaking news that is false or wrong, I am going to at the very least get disciplined, and I could actually get fired. Who then is going to be there to hold power to account? Is the crowd going to do it? I get paid to do it. Let's talk about a crowd. That's a crowd of 17 different U.S. intelligence agencies, all of which concluded that Russia had hacked the U.S. presidential election with the aim towards supporting Donald Trump.
No, it's not true.
Of 17 different U.S. intelligence agencies,
all of which concluded that Russia had hacked the U.S. presidential election with the aim towards supporting Donald Trump.
That's really weird, because here's the director of national intelligence, and let's see if he says 17 agencies or not.
As you know, the IC was a coordinated product from 3 agencies, CIA, NSA, and the FBI, not all 17 components of the intelligence community. Those 3.
New York Times retracts its 17 intelligence agencies, Kennard, which thousands of journalists have spread.
But the president, the newly elected president of the United States, didn't believe it. And 80% of his followers didn't believe it either.
This was put out there for purposes of the Democrat Party, people like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, all the others, to put this up as a weapon against President Trump.
But part of the problem is that when the president of the United States is encouraging his supporters to believe that the media is not just out of touch or somewhat ineffective, but it's actually lying, it causes a problem.
Shut the fuck up. I will fucking laser you with alien fucking eyes and explode your fucking head.
All of it bringing impeachment back to the forefront. Let's take a look at the process of impeachment. First of all, the House of Representatives draws up articles of impeachment. Think of the House as the prosecutor.
It begins by referring the matter to a committee, usually the House Committee on Rules and the House Committee on the Judiciary. These committees review the accusations, examine the evidence, and issue a recommendation.
Next, the House votes. At least 2/3 of the chamber has to approve the impeachment. I've been a journalist for 24, 25 years.
At least 2/3 of the chamber has to approve the impeachment.
Next, the House votes. At least 2/3 of the chamber has to approve the impeachment. This is a high bar, making many impeachments a bipartisan effort.
The House holds a separate vote on each of the specific charges, known as articles of impeachment. If one or more passes by a simple majority, the official is impeached.
Once the House approves the articles of impeachment, the matter goes to the Senate, which acts more like a courtroom. The threshold is 2/3, so even half the chamber voting to impeach would still acquit the president. 2/3 of the Senate, 60 as it stands right now.
It takes 67 votes to convict at an impeachment trial, if all 100 senators vote.
60 as it stands right now are needed to vote guilty for impeachment. All right, as we wait to learn more about the Jacksonville shooter, where he got his gun and how he got it from Maryland to Florida, it is worth looking at the gun laws in Florida.
Investigators say he legally purchased 2 handguns in Baltimore.
Florida does not require a permit to purchase rifles or handguns.
So he purchased the firearms in Maryland, in Baltimore, and based on the investigation at this point, he legally purchased the firearms from a licensed dealer and didn't violate any laws in doing that.
It does not require any firearm registration either.
He was able to go locally to a licensed dealer to get 2 handguns with no trouble at all.
Carrying a handgun, however, does require a permit, and that restriction is one of the few on gun owners in Florida. Other than the handgun carry permit requirement, there's a so-called red flag law that allows police to take guns away from those deemed as dangerous.
Vic, Maryland has some of the most restrictive gun laws in the nation, including safeguards dealing with mental health issues. Yet,
if a gun is purchased in Florida, by the way, there's a 3-day waiting period on purchase, but this waiting period doesn't actually apply if you trade in a gun for a new one.
He purchased 2 guns legally here in Maryland, perhaps within the last month or so. He did it legally in one of the most highly regulated states in America for background checks, etc.
And in Florida, only the state can enact any gun legislation. Local governments are not allowed to make their own laws on firearms. Trust and support traditional journalism, which is devoted to research and fact-checking and in-depth investigation of issues, the very journalism that is under attack right now.
And who built the cages, yeah?
And you ain't black.
Who built the cages, yeah?
And you ain't black.
Who built the cages, yeah?
Let's talk about
who built the cages, yeah? Who built the cages, yeah?
We choose truth over facts.
Who built the cages, yeah?
We choose truth over facts.
Who built the cages, yeah?
Let's talk about who built the cages.